Hi, my name is Devin, and this is my video essay. The title of this essay is called Current Movie Trends and Themes. In any given year, you see enough movies out of habit or just through obligation, and you notice the patterns and clusters. By December, the temptation will nearly be overwhelming to generalize from this media turned coincidences into trends and trends into matters and the world's historical significance. So, the ad selections, the arbitrary week in week sampling of stories and pictures must add up to something, right? Otherwise, why bother? One reason for you to bother, of course, is precisely to find experiences that defy expectations and break patterns, movies that challenge your assumptions or alter your habits of perception. And how often does that happen? Just enough. An attempt to synthesize can only fail, so in lieu of a comprehensive theory of cinema, I now offer you a handful of postulates called the trends and themes. I trust that they will simulate sober discussion and principled argument as well as an outright ritual. 1. We are all figments of Leonardo DiCaprio's imagination, or Natalie Portman, or Mark Zuckerberg's, or Banksy's. It gets confusing after you reach Tom Cruise. The lines between reality and appearance, reason and madness, truth and fiction have always been blurry. This is especially fertile when it comes to movies, dreams, hoax, puzzles, and many of them playing a fundamental question of identity. Was Mr. DiCaprio in Shutter Island a dully appointed federal marshal or loony bin resident? Asleep or awake in Inception? What was the true reality in Coherence? Was the exit through the gift shop an elaborate conceptual art prank by Banksy, or an expose of art world fraud? And what about The Truman Show? Do we keep our ideas private, or do we send them out to the world? And what about Catfish? Are our real live selves on Facebook, or are they just real friends? 2. It's all mom's fault. Movies in and out have been showing great female actresses and have had amazing female directors, but it has also shown a trend of bad mothers. The maternal monster category. Sorry for the reposition of the camera. Melissa Leo from The Fighter and Barbara Hershey in Black Swan face off competition from the cartoon villainess Mother Gothel in Tangled, or Cinderella, or Another Cinderella Story, or the amount of remakes of all these fairy tale stories that have evil stepmothers. Number 3. The mother is always miserable as well. There are plenty of maternal suffering that counteract such demonization. Rodrigo Garcia's Mother and Child was about nothing else, and Annette Bening, Kerry Washington, and Naomi Watts play out a braided melodrama of longing and loss. But in my opinion, no one suffers as grandly as Tilda Swinton in the operative I'm in Love, or pathetic as Paprika Steen in The Unsparing Applause. But still, as number 4, the kids are alright. The daughters in particular. There are always these brave, tough, adventurous, except for the movie Scream, and sometimes reckless young girls and young women, including the fearless Rapunzel in Tangled. As crazy as her mother was, she was a pretty good singer, and she still had the boast and the power to escape the tower and go and find her freedom. And also the Fanning sisters, Dakota and Elle. Dakota in Runaways, and Elle in The Haunting and Clear-Sighted Somewhere. Not to mention Jennifer Lawrence's fearless teenager in Winter's Bone. Haley Steinfeld, an up-and-coming Disney Channel star who has made her way on screens outside of the network, played a plucky Old West Avenger in True Grit. And another up-and-coming, Chloe Grace Moretz, a lonely vampire in Let Me In. 5. All the kids grow up, not just Harry Potter. Yes, The general wallowing in male arrest development continued, with the usual comic suspects like Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, appearing in the usual comedies, one of them called Grown Ups. But at least two of the films, Somewhere and Greenberg, took a tough love attitude towards their immature male protagonists, reckoning the emotional costs of delayed maturity and extended adolescence. The same might be said about The Social Network and the experience of sending a child off to college, a hardly common theme in movie. But for now, it has become a touchstone, or at least the official three-film cross-genre trend, thanks to, I don't know, Toy Story. And, the kids are alright, the kids grow up, a cartoon, a comedy, and a documentary. Meanwhile, the drift and ambiance of the post-collegiate young was actually captured grandly in The Graduate. Number 6. Superheroes take a break. Yes, there was Iron Man, but even that offered a respite of glowering, pretentious action allegories that dominated the screens for most of the past decade. The battle between good and evil ranges in some quarters, but mostly the self-conscious and the self-paradox form. In the strangely familiar animated kiddie comedies, Despicable Me, the heroes and the villains are self-conscious role players. The villains are actually nice, and at times could be more interesting than the occasional square-jawed nemesis. This may reflect genre exhaustion, though other round of superhero blockbusters is already on the horizon, or a measure of the real-life cynicism. There have been investigative shows and investigative movies that have inspired a new idea that suggests that corruption and criminality exists virtually beyond the reach of justice. Number 7. This actually might be a little funnier. The Bush era is not over. Green Zone, Fair Game, Casino Jack, Inside Job, Client 9, The Ghost Rider. So many scores left to settle. 8. But can't the 90s come back? Or the 80s? Or some era that's more appealing to the one that they're in? Love and Other Drugs? Greenberg? Hot Tub Time Machine? The Runaways? Howls? Any music documentary you can name. 9. Oh, I can't do 9. 9. Only a great director can make a great movie, but a good actor can make a bad or mediocre or not quite great movie much better. For instance, Helen Mirren in Tempest, Mrs. Mirren in Red, Paul Giamatti in Barney's Version, Mr. Spacey's in Casino Jack, Anne Hathaway and Jake Gyllenhaal in Love and Other Drugs, Javier Bardem in Beautiful, everyone in True Grit, Vanessa Redgrave in Letters to Juliet, Liam Neeson in any way he's in, Rachel McAdams in Morning Glory, and Anthony Mackie in The Night Catches Us. And finally, 10. This discussion of movies is frequently more interesting than the movies themselves. Not trying to be cocky. It was more fun to read the impassioned geeky arguments about Inception than endure the second viewing of that film. Early arguments about the accuracy of Social Network and whether it even mattered gave way to the series of reviews, essays, and debates about how Facebook, digital entrepreneurship, friendship, business, mediocrity, and the Ivy League, far richer and more relevant than the contemporary life, than Aaron Sorkin's glib script or David Fincher's elegant atmospheres. And as intellectually lazy and emotional manipulative as it was, Davis Guggenheim's Waiting for Superman nonetheless focused serious and critical attention on the problems facing America's education.